All right, what is up, guys? Kevin from the KO Sports Corner today. It is our Marlins roundtable, but with the twist of MLB free agency. We have John Rodriguez as always, and then we have a special guest. We have Adam Akbani of Fish Stripes, my colleague at Fish Stripes. Adam, we're excited to have you on here and ready to do some drafting. We're taking this idea from John Boy Media. They did it last year. I was a huge fan of it, so we're going to do it again this year. But before we start drafting, let's talk some Marlins. The season's over. Houston Astros are the champs. Congrats to them. Congrats to Dusty Baker, first of all. What is the mentality of the Miami Marlins entering the offseason? We know they want to win. That's been known very, very well. We don't know how much money they're going to spend, but we know they're going to be out there trying to wheel and deal some trades. We know they have the amounts of pitching that we've spoken about many, many times before. Adam, what do you think is the mentality that the Marlins should go into this offseason knowing that they're going to try to win this year, or at least have a better season than last year, obviously?
Yeah, and Kevin, we talked earlier in the chat earlier, like in our private chat, about the state of the team and going forward about guys like Avisel Garcia and Jorge Soler from the free agency signings last year and how they really underachieved in 2022, but it was really an anomaly of a year for both of them. And I really expect for both of them to bounce back. And in conjunction with all of those guys, I really do feel that with a couple of extra pieces placed in there and the rise of some of the rookies that we saw this year with Grosjeans, with Blade, with Charles LeBlanc and other guys as well, I really do think that this team potentially could hover around that 75 to 80 win mark. And, it's progress towards the playoffs and it's a, step forward, but I don't think that's going to be the route or like the finishing result next year. That being said, I really do think that they're probably going to go into this offseason looking to spend maybe a little bit more to try to add some more pieces in that lineup. But I don't think it's going to be something they're going to be splashing on a guy like Correa or a Judge. But I do think they're probably going to make a move or two to probably address something in the outfield, for example. And that's something we could see happen.
Yeah, and just to once again go through the needs of this team at the moment, they obviously need a center fielder. Now you could say they need a left fielder, just assuming Jorge Soler opts into his deal and he turns out to be the everyday DH. And then you need bullpen. You need bullpen help, John. And I want to get your thoughts on what the mentality should be, but not only that, and this is gonna be kind of the first roundtable question here is what pitcher should the Marlins trade? And you have to name one. Now, if you assume it's Pablo Lopez, you can mention him, but then mention another one because that one's a little bit obvious, I guess. I think they will explore the possibility of trading Pablo, but starting with you, John, what should be the Marlins mentality and what is one pitcher you're trading?
Yeah, so Pablo Lopez was pretty close to being dealt in the deadline. Obviously, it didn't go through. But to answer your question, Kevin, I think another pitcher that should be out there that they might deal is Braxton Garrett, who surprisingly surprised us with his performances, and just about every single time he hit the mound, he just shocked me. I wasn't high on the guy to start the 2022 season, so to see him actually go out there and do well, it's pretty good. And I think the Marlins could find a solid replacement for him. They've always talked about their good depth in pitching, and I think they're not wrong about that. Yuri's is knocking on the door pretty soon, including a couple others who could get a chance. But yeah, I do consider Braxton Garrett a tradable candidate. I don't know if they actually pull it off, but with Trevor Rogers in the hopes of possibly making a nice comeback next year, and the reason why I mentioned Trevor is because he's a lefty. So the big thing to question there is the Marlins and their lefties. So with Jake Eater making a return next year, who's another lefty, we'll get to see how he does and if he's going to qualify to make it to the major leagues in the future. So yeah, I think my pick will go to Brax.
All right, Adam, who's your pick?
For me, honestly, I would probably go with someone. I think I'm probably going to go with a reliever, and I think it was probably someone that we were looking at earlier. Potentially someone towards the end of their the team control end, probably a guy like Tanner Scott, someone I do believe that has the stuff to potentially have a breakout year, even though he has had command control issues. If it's not him, it's probably going to be a guy like Pablo, which is like, the popular pick. But I didn't want to be, I wanted to be somewhat more but unique since everyone else has kind of been saying that. I do, and the reason why I say that is because I do want the team to kind of continue to shed off the guys that are, going to be replaced eventually by the residual starting pitching prospects that will end up in the bullpen. And I think that in return, they can get some quality bats that hopefully could be something that they could be placing in the lineup. So another prospect, something like kind of like they did with Jordan Groshans this past season. So if they kind of replicate that move in next year with one of the relievers who potentially could break out, in my opinion, that could be a guy like Tanner Scott, who I think could bounce back. That's my pick.
Yeah, no, that's a good pick as well. We just have to hope teams want to, see what Tanner Scott has, because he did have his struggles with the team, but he did have some high moments as well. And my pick would go to, I want to say as well, Braxton Garrett, but I'm going to be different. I'm going to go Edward Cabrera. I know people compare him to Sandy 2.0 and all that, but injuries have really hurt him. And if you trade Edward, you are going to get a pretty good haul. I will tell you that right now. You would get a lot after seeing what he did in 2022 with this team when healthy. You went out there in Coors Field, the most hitter-friendly ballpark in the MLB, and you throw basically a scoreless no-hitter, throughout the time you're in the game. That's very good, and then you just keep going, and you're pitching pretty well throughout the whole year. So I would go and maybe trade Edward just because of the injury concern, and you have Yuri coming up. You have Jake Eater, as you mentioned, John coming up, Dax Fulton. He'd be knocking on the door in maybe a year or two. So you just have so much pitching. And, another name that wouldn't surprise me as well, as you mentioned, is Braxton Garrett if he does get dealt. I don't know if you guys noticed this towards the end of the year, Adam and John, but when Trevor came back, they sent down Braxton Garrett. That just shows you what they believe in Trevor more than Garrett. Maybe is that the case? Because they kept one lefty in the rotation throughout the whole year. I believe it was one lefty, and that was Trevor Rogers. When it wasn't Rogers, it was Garrett. So you kind of just see what their mentality is there at the moment. But that is who I would go with. And the final, I guess, piece of news that we could talk about, as in the MLB as a whole, two pieces of news is the Cardinals, your team, Adam, the team where you live, the team you watch a lot, St. Louis Cardinals. They got their bench coach, Matt Holliday. So, what are your thoughts on that? And then we'll talk about Edwin Diaz quickly.
Yeah, so with Matt Holliday, he was a former Cardinal. He came over in the Oakland trade, back in like 2009, I think, and he had a very successful career here. He was part of that big three with Albert Pujols, Yadier Molina in the lineup. I haven't really. I think this is his coaching debut. I think he took some time off after retiring from baseball in 2019 and 2020. I can't remember exactly when that was. Could have been earlier actually than that. But now that his son is back in baseball with Jackson Holliday being the first pick of the amateur draft, I think he's starting to kind of get back into the game. He's wanting to he's getting excited about being in baseball, kind of bored of staying at home but living the retired life. But it's very exciting to see someone. He's a very successful hitter and as a major leaguer, so he looks like he knows what he's talking about. And a familiar face for many Cardinal fans and a lot of Cardinal players. So I think a lot of the guys will be excited to have him, and hopefully he shows a lot of that wisdom that helped him be a perennial all-star here in St. Louis and in Colorado as well. So excited to see what he brings to the table.
And then I want to mention Matt Holliday once again because Skip Schumacher, that's his very close friend. And there was the possibility, as Craig Mish reported today, right after the announcement was made, that Matt Holliday was a possibility to be on Skip Schumacher's staff. I would assume it's as bench coach. So that kind of leads you to say James Robinson won't be returning in 2023, or maybe he's putting in another position. But John, just your thoughts on that possibility of Matt Holliday being there as the possible bench coach in Miami, or he would have been the guy.
Yeah, I know both of them played together in that 2011 Cardinals run. I know in 06 they did it because Holiday was over in Colorado, but yeah, I would like that because these are two guys that bonded over the years and they know each other. They probably have hung out outside of the baseball diamond. So one of the biggest things that Skip said in his presser is that it's all about communication. It's all about making positive relationships, and when I think of the Cardinals, that's all I think about. They have great chemistry, a great clubhouse to be a part of. I mean, that team is winning 80 games every single year, and that's the model I want the Marlins to be building, regardless if they make the playoffs or not. If they win at least 80 games every single year, that's pretty good. So to have a guy like Holiday, Skip, kind of bonding together there, that's perfect. I think that's a pretty good idea, but I think there's maybe another guy in that old Cardinals staff that could possibly fill in. Maybe not even as a bench coach, but hey, as a hitting coach. We'll see.
Yeah, we know exactly who that is. Mr. Mark McGuire. But I think it's drafting time. I think it's time to talk about the draft, how we're gonna do this. So the rules are as John Boy did it last season. So I'm kind of gonna go off of that, put a little, I guess a more condensed version. Yeah. So yeah, before we get started quickly, Edwin Diaz, 120 mil. I believe what was it, 10 years or how many years?
Wait, 120?
It was 100, no, 102. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I was like,
I was about
what?
to say, I mean, still, it's a huge deal
Yeah.
for Edwin Diaz. He gets the biggest reliever deal. So shout out to Edwin Diaz. The Marlins are going to be seeing him a lot more for the next 5 years. And very, very quickly, just want to get into the rules that we're going to do here. Very condensed version. So 8 picks each of us. There's a board, obviously. I use Spot Track. You guys could use whatever you want to find these free agents. Quickly, Carlos Rodon did opt out of his deal, so he does count for this as well. If you guys are considering taking him at some point, 10 points for correct team selection. This could be a re-sign. So if Aaron Judge re-signs to the Yankees, you still get 10 points. 5 points for the correct amount of years. And if you get both, obviously you get 15 points. Edwin Diaz does not count. And you need to have one Marlins signing. So out of your 8 picks, one of them needs to be a Miami Marlins signing. John is keeping track of each selection. So we decided to order pre-stream, and Adam is first, then John, and then I go last, and then we'll do Snake. So Adam, you have the first pick, sir.
Perfect. So I was giving this a lot of thought earlier today about just kind of free agents, and I'm gonna go starting with our guaranteed looks to be unanimous, or maybe not unanimous, AL MVP because of Shohei Ohtani might get some pity votes, but
Okay.
Aaron Judge, I'm gonna start with him, and he's the kind of player because he sets a record, he played his entire time in a big market. He's the kind of player you just can't let walk, right? He's gonna affect that market in New York, and it's going to be sending shockwaves throughout the city and kind of like set off some earthquakes if he does leave. It would be kind of like a Mookie Betts situation. You don't let it go like that go unless you're a small market team, and that's not what the Yankees are. So the bidding, because he turned down 30 million last year per year, I would say the bidding starts at 35. But I do believe it's going to end up around, if I had to take a guess, around 42.5 million a year. And I say he gets maybe 8 years. So that would be, let's see, 12.5. That's what, 252 million over the course of, no, hold on. Let me check. Let me do a calendar real quick. 32.5 AEV times 8.
And he goes to the Yankees, you say, or?
Yeah, he stays in, or sorry, 42.5, I meant to say. 42.5 times 8. So sorry,
All right,
340 million. Yeah. I said the bidding starts at 35. Yeah.
So there's the first selection, Aaron Judge to the Yankees for 8 years. So he is now off the board. John, you're up. What's your next pick? And you could, and by the way, you can make a Marlins pick at any time, and you can make. I guess we could all leave the trade pick for the end because we're not going to do that this early into the draft. But you could go as you wish, and you can make the Marlins pick at any time. So John, you're up.
All right, so yeah, we just saw Aaron Judge leave the board. I knew it was gonna be one of the first ones out, but we're looking at a couple of the names here, just some interesting names too. But I'm gonna go with Trey Turner here. This is a guy who played for the Dodgers, and I mean he's a spectacular player. I think he likes it more in the East Coast. I think that's something that he's been vocal about. Um, so I'm gonna say Trey Turner is going to replace Dansby Swanson for the Atlanta Braves. He's gonna be signing a 4-year deal.
Ooh, I would love that.
Wow.
That's
All right, 4-year deal for Trey Turner. I will say now that he's off the board, I had him going to the Phillies. So I thought you were gonna say Phillies, but still, him going to Atlanta, that'd be huge, huge there. So I am up next, and could go many directions here, but I'm gonna start with Carlos Correa, and I'm gonna say he will be an LA Dodger for the next 5 years of his career. It's just something that it's just something that I could see happening. He has the chance to go there, compete every single year. I don't see him going back to Minnesota. I believe he was on the broadcast interviewing Jeremy Pena during the World Series after seeing his former team win. So I think he wants to be up there at least in the World Series next season, and I do believe he could do that with the Dodgers. So I am going Carlos Correa to the Dodgers next year And since we're doing snake draft, I have another pick, and I'm gonna go catcher here. I'm gonna go Wilson Contreras. We'll go to the Houston Astros for 5 years as well.
I was gonna take Contreras at some point.
I just they need a catcher, man. You know,
Yeah.
Martin Maldonado barely could hit. Christian Vasquez was a pretty good backup, but you need this guy there, and the guy is Wilson Contreras. And they almost did trade for him. I believe this was an article from Jeff Passan that they had a trade ready for Jose Urquidy for Wilson Contreras, just a 1-for-1, which is very, very weird. But hey, I mean, Chicago gets that starting pitching that they need, and Houston gets their catcher. But now they could secure him long term in the free agent market.
Yeah.
So, John, you're up.
All right, so the next player on the list here, I think I'm gonna go safe with this one. I'm gonna make it my safe prediction. I always want to be pretty safe with this one. I'm
Gotta
gonna
secure
go simple. I'm gonna go Clayton Kershaw signs a 1-year deal to stay with the Dodgers. I mean, it's a no-brainer. Dude's almost, how old is Clayton Kershaw? He's about in his late 30s, about to
He's
uh
about to be 40, right?
something like that. I mean, Kershaw
I think
had
he's
an
still pretty
okay
young.
year, but I think he's just gonna sign that safe 1-year deal to stay in LA. I know many people last year when he was a free agent that were hinting about him going home to Arlington. Remember the Rangers on that huge free agent splash. So yeah, but I do have Clayton staying LA. I mean, he's way beyond any of the other Dodger legend pitchers all time. But yeah, that's my safe pick right there.
Yeah, I had that same exact pick too for some point. That's the safe pick. If you want points, you want your 15 points. It's Clayton Kershaw to the going back to the Dodgers. But I definitely could see him going back to going home and going to Texas. I mean, I would definitely consider it at this point in your career. You maybe want to just pitch for your hometown team at least once, kind of like what Dwayne Wade did going to Chicago. If you guys remember that,
I
but
remember that.
didn't go too well for him. But Adam, you're up, man.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and use my trade. So, like I mentioned earlier, you stole
Okay.
Contreras from me. I was gonna mock him to the Cardinals, but since you kind of took him from me, I'm gonna mock a different catcher in a trade. I'm gonna say Sean Murphy from the Oakland Athletics makes a move to the St. Louis Cardinals this offseason, and that's someone I would love to see in Cardinal red.
That
Wow.
makes actually a lot of sense. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
especially now with Yachty going. Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah,
Yachty
good.
going, they really don't have that backup. You could definitely see maybe the Cardinals shipping out a prospect or two for him.
yeah,
I don't know how much the price would be there, but you know definitely more about the Cardinal system than I do. So if you want to talk about what that price would require, or if they would even have to give up major league talent.
Yeah, I mean, it would probably. I wouldn't be surprised if Oakland would want to build that farm system a little bit more. I mean, they do have Shea Langeliers who's going to replace him, so it wouldn't be a catcher. I could see a guy like Dylan Carlson on his way out, and we do have the outfielders to kind of replace him, and that'd be okay. Giving him up, I'm not super excited about him, and if not, you got guys like Mason Wynn, maybe a guy like Gordon Grefko is somebody else. There's plenty of other names, but those are just a couple of them. But yeah, but Sean Murphy would be a fantastic plug-in to replace Yadier Molina. You need that kind of. He's a very good defensive catcher too, and when he's on, he can hit pretty decently as well. And potential all-star behind the plate, and yeah, he would be a great fit in St. Louis. That's my pick for the trade.
And you have one more other pick since
Oh,
it's
yeah.
snake draft style here.
Shoot. Okay. So let's see. So we've got the shortstop carousel going around here. Let's see. I think St. Louis also needs a shortstop to replace Paul DeYoung, who's been struggling. And Dansby Swanson is someone who I really like. So it's a really strong shortstop class this year. And I really
Yeah.
like Xander Bogaerts and Dansby Swanson, but I'm gonna go with Dansby Swanson. I think he signs a 6-year deal with the St. Louis Cardinals. I think they make a splash this offseason because they did say the payroll would increase, and I think that's who they go after if it's not Contreras.
I like it. If it's not Contreras, it's Dansby Swanson, and I think they'll be in on a lot of players this year. That's what the Cardinals do. You know, they have a pretty good payroll too. When you look at it, if you want to really compare the Marlins and what they should do, it's definitely up that payroll, and we all know they have to do that. But John, you're up. What's your pick?
This is a tough one because this is going to spark some questions here, but I genuinely don't see Jacob deGrom returning to the Mets. I think after his injury history, and the Mets, needing that guy to step up. I don't think he's gonna go over to the Mets. In fact, I'm gonna have him going to a team that always makes a splash but never really seems to get the results in the season. And I'm gonna enter it right here.
Is it?
So
Oh, I
Jacob
think
deGrom is going to the LA Angels for a 2-year
ooh,
deal.
that
I
would
mean,
actually be very
it's a
good.
no-brainer. The Angels in the past 10 years have needed pitching. So I think with Jacob deGrom, if he could stay healthy, that's a good fit. He's essentially replacing that Noah Syndergaard hole that was previously there. So yeah, I think the Angels do make that one splash. I don't really see them doing too much. So it kind of questions if they're going to make a move with Otani or something. So I guess it opens up that spot right there, but we'll see.
I guess you could say it opens the window for one last attempt at least sneaking into
Yeah,
the playoffs, kind of like the Phillies did this year, and look where they ended up. So, who did they get last year? Who was their big signing last year?
Syndergaard.
Syndergaard it was? Jesus, no, it's not good. So,
Yeah.
Adam, your thoughts on that selection there from John?
The Jacob deGrom one, yeah. I mean, especially with all the money that Steve Cohen has allocated to a lot of free agents, especially recently with Edwin Diaz. He just paid him this morning or this afternoon, and he's paid Francisco Lindor. He's paid Max Scherzer. The list goes on and on with the high payroll that they have. So I think letting Jacob deGrom go is going to be unfortunate. I still believe he is the best pitcher on the
Oh
planet,
yeah.
and if the LA Angels get him, stack him along with Shohei Ohtani with his bat and Mike Trout returning, hopefully Anthony Rendon. I think that's a team that can make some noise in the AL West in 2023 and beyond. So that'll be very exciting to watch.
And they also had Sandoval, who kind of arose to the
Yes,
occasion.
Patrick Sandoval, not Pablo
Yeah,
Sandoval.
Pablo Sandoval. I don't even know where he's
Patrick.
playing right now, but
Yes.
all right. So I'm up next. This is kind of difficult. I'm gonna go. I guess more of a safe pick. I guess I'm gonna say Justin Verlander stays with Houston, and he signs a 2-year deal to stay there. I could see it happen. He just won the World Series. It makes sense for him to go back and try to run it back with that team. That is a very, very good team, especially if they could land both Contreras and Verlander. That team's gonna be nasty. I mean, that team may run it back and repeat if they bring those two guys in. And with I mean, they have Corey Lee, who we'll see how he ends up. I know Adam, you may know more about Lee, so I'll ask you now. What do you think about Corey Lee? I know he was their top prospect, I want to say, and then do you project him as a catcher or more as a first baseman? I don't even know if he's taking rips at first, but you know.
Yeah, so Corey Lee to me kind of has framing issues and he's really not the best receiver. He could probably stay behind the plate. He has a chance to do it. But if he moves out of that position, I could probably see him probably in right field or at first, probably DH. I would hate to see him not use that arm. So it might be able to be in right field because he does have a plus arm, in my opinion. But if it's not able to be behind, I think it's still he would be a potential fit behind the plate if not for Maldonado to replace him. But right now, I just don't think he's ready. He's probably still going to need some time, and I don't think he's going to be someone you could rely on to potentially be an everyday catcher because I haven't seen enough from him, especially as a defensive player. So that is my biggest worry. His selling ticket is his arm. It's to me kind of profiles like Jorge Alfaro.
Oh boy.
Kevin,
Oh, he hit some walk-offs at least, actually. So yeah,
I actually had Verlander on my list. I had him going back to Detroit for a 2-year deal. And why I say that is, that's a team that needs some spark of hope. I mean, Verlander has shown that he is still pretty competent as a pitcher despite his age. And Detroit has been his home for a while. And I think we've seen a lot of these type of moves in the past where many guys go back to their home, uh, either their first team or the team that they were the best in. I mean, look at Pujols and these guys. So if Verlander is seeking towards a farewell tour, I think Detroit is, that's his landing spot. And who knows? Maybe he tries to team up once again with Miggy. But I like your pick.
Do you guys are we all in agreement that Verlander is the Cy Young? Yeah.
I think it's like him and Dylan Cease at the very top, but I haven't really checked exactly what stats are, but I know both of them were up there. I thought Cease might have been like the number one guy.
He's had it for a while. I will
Yeah,
say that.
I don't know for sure, and I know Verlander missed time, so
All right, so the Zoom's about to end, so we have to.
No, check chat. We're good.
Oh, we're good.
Yeah. Keep it
All
till
right.
like we're like 3 minutes left and then
oh,
All
okay.
right, we'll cut this out quickly then. That part. All right. So I'm up next once again, and I'm gonna go with my Marlins pick. Why
Oh,
not?
okay.
I'm gonna go. Anthony Rizzo signs a 1-year deal with
Whoa.
the Miami Marlins. They finally get their first baseman. He's an actual 30 home run hitter. He could take the hometown discount maybe at this point. He already has his World Series. He may want to go for one more, but definitely he has the chance to go back. I know he does a lot of work in down there with Stillman Douglas, so
Yeah.
be able to do that on a more consistent rate. Immediately become the star player. It doesn't really fit the motto of him being the what the Marlins want to do in terms of getting that contact hitter, but Rizzo gets on base at a pretty decent rate. I don't know if anyone has the stats up right now, but the last time I checked, he got on base pretty well. And I spoke about him on the Marlins offseason shopping list, and I'm trying to find that. But I like Rizzo. Adam, John, your thoughts on that Rizzo selection there? And I say 1-year deal because I'm not sure how long maybe he would like to stay down there in Miami. Or maybe he just wants to give it a try, and if he likes it, then he comes back for a longer term deal. But I do see him maybe taking a pay cut there in that scenario.
I'll let Adam go first on his thoughts here.
yeah. So if I'm not mistaken, Rizzo, if he struggling early on in this year, and then he kind of picked it up. But regardless, he had like almost an 11% walk rate, and Rizzo's known for being a very decisive hitter and being having a very advanced knowledge of when to make of having his swing decisions at the plate. So kudos to him for always having that to be in his MO as a major leaguer. Coming back to to Miami being the Stillman product, I think back in 2007 when he graduated.
Yeah.
Uh coming back, like you mentioned, Kevin, he's gonna be that star. To be honest with you, I could see him signing for a little bit longer. If he's gonna sign a longer term deal, it's kind of hard for me to project him to Miami. It would be a fun thing to see. But I do see him signing maybe a longer term deal, potentially with more of a contender, probably somewhere else. But it would be cool to watch. And if he is in Miami, I would love to see him probably stay for hopefully a lot longer than just one season.
Yeah,
think-
and as I was mentioning quickly, I'm sorry, John, about
No, you're
the
good.
base percentage. It's 338, 10% walk rate, under 20% strikeout rate, and he hit 32 bombs. So this is exactly what Miami maybe you could say was looking for in a guy like Avi Garcia when they first signed him. So they could definitely get that and hopefully some type of a bounce back from Avi Garcia. You pair those two guys up, and I think it would be a pretty nice combo to have there. And if Soler does what we expect him to do, which is hit bombs, this team could have those three sluggers. You could trade away Garrett Cooper, get a nice little prospect haul there. Maybe to LA, which was the team rumored that wanted Cooper. The Astros also wanted Cooper. I believe that was a report. I'm not sure. I think that was a fake report. Who knows? But yeah, John, your thoughts quickly on Anthony Rizzo?
Yeah, this is another guy who was on my list. Instead of Miami, I had Rizzo signing a 3-year deal with the Boston Red Sox, replacing Eric Hosmer. So I do see him, landing over there. But with Rizzo coming to Miami, this is the firecracker type of hitter that the Marlins need. Power hitter, and not only from the right side, he's a lefty, so he's going to deliver those bombs to the second deck in Lone Depot Park if he does that. I mean, he hit 2 last year against the Marlins. Well, this past season.
2 years ago, right? 2021.
No, 2022 against the Marlins. He had 2 bombs.
When they
Yeah.
play the Yankees.
Oh, right, that's right, 2021. Wow, I am, wow. But yeah, they did, they did play. He did play some time here against the Marlins, and boy, was he good. And he not only that, he's a professional on and off the field. He's really good with the fans. I mean, I really watched a lot of Cubs baseball when they were on their big shine, and yeah, he not only that, he has a good glove. So you're adding 2 pluses into that first base position. So yeah, I like your pick.
All right, John, you're up next.
Oh, okay. Well, you took my Rizzo pick, and that was gonna be my next one. Let's see. All right, so let's go Josh Bell. Okay, so this is one of the guys I really wanted the Marlins to nab, so I'm gonna put him as my Marlins pick. I'm having the Marlins signing Josh Bell to a 2-year deal. They'll probably give him like 15 mil, knowing the Marlins. That's their average type of contract. I mean, they did it with Dickerson, it looks like. They almost gave Dickerson 20 mil, if I remember. Um, but yeah, this first base is a position that I personally think Miami lacks. And I know they have Cooper. I know they could,
You said
fill
two
in on the
years. You said 2 years, John.
oh 2 years, my bad. Yeah. But whoa. Yeah, I like Bell. I know his defense isn't all that. There's been a lot of plays that I've seen with Bell that his defense is yikes. But he brings the contact. He hit the ball just about everywhere. And what's Miami's number one problem? The offense. And if we could get a guy like Bell to help us out with that and slap the ball just about in every single corner, every single gap. Lone Depot Park is very big. Noted to be a pitcher's type ballpark. He could help out.
Yeah, and the only other thing I wanted to say is this guy's like I would say a bigger. This is like a Garrett Cooper, but an upgrade type thing. He hits homers. He's a good contact hitter. He should have been an all-star. He wasn't. He absolutely got snubbed in my opinion. But Adam, do you think John and I are kind of underestimating the amount of years Miami could give to these type of guys? And John says 2 years for Bell. I said 1 year for Rizzo. Do you think we're kind of underestimating it? And I want to get your thoughts on that Rizzo. I mean, not Rizzo, Josh Bell opportunity to Miami. This is someone who also our good friend Louis Adil Weiss has mentioned he would like in Miami.
Yeah, so I don't think at all you guys are off in terms of the years and like the length of what some of these guys, if they were to sign with the Marlins, what they would receive. I think Kevin having Anthony Rizzo be in Miami, is, like I mentioned earlier, might not be something that would actually happen. At least what I would be, at least in my opinion. A guy like Josh Bell, potentially, I think the guys like we've seen before, like signing a guy like Corey Dickerson to those 1-2 type free agent year deals. And the idea with that signing is to kind of flip them if they're not performing to get extra prospects. And that's exactly what they did, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Um, they could do the same thing with a guy like Josh Bell. He could whack 25, 30 home runs, and he could be something like they could trade the deadline, just like how I believe Washington did this past season, trading him with Soto to the San Diego Padres. And you can supplement whatever kind of trade deal you would want. And you can get an extra hitter, another pitcher, a fringe prospect in return. So I think that's a decent idea. And I think that's best done and executed through a 1-2 year deal where the team receiving him back in a trade can just, if he doesn't work out, they kind of just bail out of the burden of having control of him because it's just a 1 or 2 year deal.
Alrighty, so Adam, you are up next, and there's the board. Who are your next two selections?
Right. So I'm gonna save the best one that the cool one that I have for last that we were just talking about off air. But my first pick is, I always see a big market team that's in the middle of a rebuild kind of like want to spearhead and like move that more quickly and advance it by signing a big free agent. This team has done this in the past, the Chicago Cubs. They signed John Lester, I believe, back in 2014 or 2015 to that deal, and they won the World Series in 2016 with him as their ace. So I think they're going to replicate that move very similarly, and I think they're going to sign former San Francisco Giant Carlos Rodon to a 6-year deal. That's my first pick.
Chicago Cubs. All right.
Wow. Okay. And they're
so
a big market team.
Kind of like the Stroman deal.
Mm-hmm.
Bringing him on there, you're building up that rotation.
Yep.
Actually, let's stay on the Cubs for a second. Who are some prospects that you could see coming up this upcoming season for the Cubs and pairing them, I guess, now with hypothetically Rodon, and then you have Stroman there?
Yeah, so this coming year, just one of the guys I really like is Brennan Davis, and he was someone who's going to come up this year, but I think he was hampered by injuries. I forget exactly what it was, but hopefully he comes up next year and he takes over at right field and he becomes that potential all-star that we all thought he would potentially be before he was hurt this year. And even when he was healthy, he was kind of struggling. So hopefully he turns it around. But looking forward, Kevin, I know someone you really like and someone I like as well is Kevin Alcantara from the Dominican Republic. He was part of that trade. I forget what for Anthony Rizzo, actually. So they mentioned him as potential taking over in center field and having a really good outfield with PCA And one more guy I'm going to mention who I think potentially could be one of the best, and according to one of my friends who actually worked in the Cubs industry, the Cubs front office, his name is Owen Casey. And for me, I think he's got so much raw power that I think he could potentially hit 30 to 40 homers in a year. This year was kind of a struggle, but if it continues to kind of work it out, I really do like Owen Casey a lot. So he's one of my favorite players in all the minor leagues, and this just so happens to be in the Cubs. I can have the chance to talk about him here. I really
That
like him.
team's that team's gonna be really damn good in a couple of years. I like the Cup system. I like what they're doing. And you would have thought maybe last offseason they had Stroman. They wanted Correa. I heard those rumors that they would have brought Correa. That team would have been very, very good. Or at least what they're building at that time. But Adam, you have one more selection. You said this is a cool one, so I'm very, very excited to hear this.
Yeah, okay, no, I just saw the chat. But bro. Yeah, but okay. So the last pick that I have here, at least the next one that I have, the Dodgers are always looking for starting pitching, right? And they are one of the, if they're not going to get it from somewhere here in the major leagues, they're very good at looking overseas. And Kodai Senga is one who is coming over. He's opted out of his contract with the NPB in Japan, and he's going to be coming over. And I think he's going to be signing a 5-year deal with the Los Angeles Dodgers. They're going to be bolstering that starting rotation.
That is a cool deal. All right, John, I actually hope if you get the spelling right. There
You
it
said
is.
Dodgers, right?
Yeah.
I think I got
That's
the spelling right. Yeah, I think so.
I hope.
How many years?
5.
5. Okay. Ooh, okay.
All right.
Masahiro Tanaka type deal.
Dude, they need these guys. Dodgers always need pitching. And if by any miracle Clayton Kershaw heads over to Texas, as we may assume it could happen, they would need a back there. And as good as their pitching is, I guess, although Tyler Anderson was really good for the Dodgers, you would always want an upgrade, and Kodai Senga would definitely be that guy. And if you want to talk to us a little bit about him, Adam, whatever you may know about him, if you want to talk to us, how good this guy is, that he would be a Dodger for the next 5 years.
I don't know. I don't know too much about Kodai Senga. I just know that the Dodgers are always looking for starting pitching, and I don't believe that they're probably going to be replacing what's his name? Trey Turner at shortstop. They'll probably look to be filling him in with someone else and moving pieces around with a lot of the flexibility that they have. And I do believe they'll be investing in having more pitching in that rotation. And I think a guy like Kodai Senga will probably be. I do know I'm looking at him right now. He is a 3-time NPB All-Star. He led the league in ERA in 2020. It was likely a COVID shortened season. And he's also a strikeout leader in the Pacific League. So, a guy that probably is going to be missing bats a lot is a guy that I really like. And for me, I think that's an archetype that's going to be very successful in the major leagues and probably throws very hard. So seeing him go into the Dodgers, that also fits their MO. So that's kind of the reason why I fit there. If not them, he's going to go to a very good team as well.
All
And
right, John.
I think Tyler Anderson is a free agent too, so it opens that hole for him.
Yeah.
Oh, my turn?
Yeah, you're up next.
I'm gonna go with my trade pick with this one, and I'm probably gonna shock you here. Oh boy. So I got Royals catcher Salvador Perez getting traded, and I have him going to the oh shit. Oh, okay, my bad. What was the team I had in mind? It was the oh my God, I had it right.
Oh, John may have to rethink this pick now.
I had it, man.
The Astros?
No. It'll come to me. It'll come. The Mariners. There it is.
Oh,
okay.
Ooh,
so,
the Mariners.
So
Really?
why I think that Perez, number one, I mean, we've seen it in his entire career, an amazing catcher. I think one of the all-time best catchers in Royals franchise history, if not the best.
It's the best.
But Perez and with the Mariners and what they've been doing and how they've been performing in recent years, they've been in the up and coming. So to get a guy like Salvador Perez, who is, man, that'd be a good pickup for them. And I think their current catchers is Cal Raleigh. Yeah, who was pretty good who's pretty good.
He was
I'll say
really
that.
good. He hit
Pretty
like
good.
25
He's really
bombs.
good.
He hit
But
he had an unknown 25 homer year. No
Yeah,
one
he
gave him
was
props for that.
ridiculous this year, man. It was so good.
but hey, the Mariners got some nice prospects that they could deal over to Kansas City. I know that that's a team similar to the Marlins in terms of how, their trajectory and going up. So I
Yeah, I
could see
guess
something like that happen. Maybe not to the Mariners, but that's the team that's been like in my head. And I'm like, you know what? I think they might just try to get better.
maybe Adam would agree, but after that Luis Castillo trade, they very much depleted at least a good portion of that farm system with Noel V. Marte going out the door. I mean, they got a haul for Luis Castillo, and it turned out well because he played well in the playoffs.
Yep.
And then not only that, they re-signed him to 5 years. But Adam, what could go in a trade for Salvador Perez to Seattle? They would. I don't know if they would even make a trade there. I would say they're pretty content with
With
Kyle
Raleigh,
Raleigh.
yeah.
They have
Yeah,
that prospect Harry Ford.
yeah. So yeah, exactly. Yeah, Harry Ford is someone who potentially could come to mind, but yeah. So I would agree with you, Kevin. I think it's think they're pretty content with Cal Raleigh and him got a pretty good decent backup in Harry Ford coming up, in the not too distant future. But I guess if you had to, if you held a gun to my head and you kind of told me to pick someone from their system where they would probably want to be dealing and sending the other way, I guess it probably would be a guy like Harry Ford or a guy like Cole Young.
There.
Emerson Hancock comes to mind. A lot of their farm system now, especially with that Luis Castillo's trade, is either graduate or now dealt in that deal. So, with Kelnick, Julio Rodriguez now in the major leagues, and Novi Marte, and a guy I really like, an Edwin Arroyo, made the over to he's going to be playing in Great American Ballpark in a few years. But if it would be making a deal for hypothetically a guy like what did we mention here? Salvador Perez, it would be like Harry Ford or Cole Young or Emerson Hancock, one of them. But I don't see Jerry Dipoto wanting to get rid of them anytime soon. He's probably very content with where the team is at right now on their way up, and they're going to be building the farm system naturally and adding free agents as they go by.
And what I'll give to John credit about Perez going to Seattle is, the experience that he has. Because I'm pretty sure, yeah, Kyle Riley's up there in age, but I believe his rookie year was maybe just last year. So he hasn't been with the team for too long. So bringing in Salvador Perez, who's been through a World Series, playoffs, the guy has been everywhere in the big leagues. So he would bring a lot of experience to that pitching rotation. So I would like that as well. And John, you have another selection. No, shoot. Am I up? No, yeah, I am up. All right. So I am up and I'm gonna go with I guess, safer pick. They signed Rafael Devers already. So now I believe Xander Bogaerts stays in Boston. He will sign a 7-year deal and stay with Boston. And you forgot the N after the A in Xander. So I do like that selection there for Boston, you keeping both guys, re-signing them, and maybe
How many years?
7.
Oh, 7. Gotcha.
And it's a capital N, Johnny. Put a capital N.
Oh my God. Okay, go. Keep going. Keep going.
I do like that possibility of, not only bringing back Rafael, which they already did, and it looks like they're working to do that. You would bring back Xander Bogaerts, and you would have your, half of your infield already filled out for the next 5-6 years, and you could be confident in that. And my next selection, I guess I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to go Brian Reynolds gets traded to the Miami Marlins. It's just bound to happen, guys. I mean, this has been the rumor for like the last 2-3 years. This is bound to happen. I just see it. I think it happens. Miami, the price I would only assume went down this time around due to the fact it was down year, but Miami fills out the center field need for the next 4 years, maybe, with the amount of control Brian Reynolds still has. The price is going down because the control is less and less as the years go on. And maybe Miami could even slip David Bednar into that deal, and you would give up just a little bit more prospect capital. They need pitching. You could give them the pitching. I really do like Brian Reynolds to Miami. You'd fill out the need of the center field. You would get a pretty good contact hitter. I know he had a very big down year, but if you look back to the 2021 season, he was an all-star. So I guess maybe one bad down year won't do much to the Marlins thinking when going after a guy like Brian Reynolds. Go for it, John. You're up next.
Okay, so this is an interesting name because this has been on the news for I guess the last year and a half. So I think he's making his return, and I'm gonna say Trevor Bauer is gonna sign a 1 year deal with the Texas Rangers. So
The most
I,
meme pick you will ever do, John.
why I think that? I mean, it's just the guy who yeah, he's been in some pretty deep stuff in recent memory, but outside of that, he's a great pitcher. I mean, there's no denial on that. He's pretty energetic on the mound. I mean, when he does a little sword thing, and and now with his YouTube channel and everything, all that buzz, I think Texas is a pick for him. I know he signed one of those massive contracts with the Dodgers, and he was just so close to signing a deal with the Mets, if you remember that tweet
Oh yeah.
by Bob. But with Trevor, man, it's a questionable pick because you're risking a high amount of money, but we saw what the Rangers were able to do in free agency last year. They were able to open up the wallet and pay some guys and bring them over to the team. I know it didn't really succeed for them, but hey, if they get Trevor Bauer, Corey Seager, Marcus Semien comes back to earth, I mean, that's a there's something happening there in the AL West. And I know that I mentioned Jacob deGrom also going to the Angels. If all of that happens, that West Division, man, that's gonna be fun to watch if we get to see all those guys. And plus the Mariners. So I guess the only team that's kind of in the outskirts is the Athletics. But they should even be in Oakland anyways. But that's a conversation for another day. But yeah, Trevor Bauer, Texas, 1 year.
Alrighty, Adam, you are up. You have the next two selections.
Yeah, so one of them I'm gonna go with safe pick. I'm gonna go Chris Bassett, and I think he's gonna stay with the New York Mets. I've heard talks about him staying on a mutual option for the next year, so I think he might stay on.
He
Uh,
declined his option, by the way.
oh, he declined it.
He
Okay,
declined it.
so oh, okay, so I think he probably so he's probably that makes sense. So him to resign with the Mets, and I think it's gonna be for 4 years with the team.
Yeah, that's a solid selection. He had a very good year with New York as well. He would cement his spot in the rotation there, especially if, what we think could happen in terms of Jacob deGrom leaving happens. He would be probably the second guy in that rotation with Max Scherzer leading it off for them. So you have another pick, Adam, and you still have your Marlins pick. Keep that in mind.
Yeah, I'll say the Marlins picks for last just because I don't see them going after anyone like too special. So
All
I'll
right.
see the premium for early on. So the next one I have here is a player that we talked about earlier today, and a guy who I really like and I think is going to be undervalued and might have a really good year as long as he stays healthy. And you know who I'm talking about here, Kevin. Mr. Brandon Nimmo playing.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah. Having a really, really strong breakout year with the Mets. He played really well a few years back, but he hasn't really been able to stay healthy and on the field, right? Especially with the pandemic shortened season, it's been tough. Any team that gets him for $20 million will be getting a steal if he stays on the field. I see him going to the New York Yankees, actually.
Wow.
I think if they are going to be trying to contend in the American League, I think they're going to be wanting to add as much talent as they can out there, especially with Harrison Bader potentially being a free agent after the end of next year and he may not be playing well. They might want to replace him and having Judge out there. George Steinbrenner is not afraid to spend the money, and I think he's going to be able to try to build a lot of talent in that outfield. And I think, having that fortified wall with Brendan Nimmo out there, I think will be a great fit. And I think,
Okay.
especially with the years, I think we talked, and I think I'm going to say 6 years.
Okay.
Okay.
So he would be the center fielder for that team moving forward. You would assume you could then
Yeah.
let
Judge slides to right field permanently.
Judge to right field, and who's even at left right now for them?
I think let's see.
Well,
Let's look
is
at
it
roster resource real quick.
is
I
it
mean, they
Oswald?
got plenty of options. They got Stanton, they got Aaron Hicks,
Oh
they
boy.
have Harrison Bader.
Oh, you could go with
Um,
Bader.
yeah, plenty of guys who can play left field. Probably Bader.
All right, so John, you're up next.
Yep. So for my next pick, I know this guy I think he's about to end a pretty long tenure with the Tampa Bay Rays, Kevin Kiermaier. So the Rays are going to be looking for an outfielder. And with that outfielder, I think they're going to be nabbing I had his name right here. Where was it? Oh, Joey Gallo. He's going to be signing a 2-year deal with the Tampa Bay Rays. Again, one of those teams that only sign, I guess, 1 to 2 year deals, mostly with players. But yeah, after Kiermaier heading towards the exits, I think Joey Gallo is going to end up in Central Florida, in the Bay. And yeah, I think he's going to be getting 2 years. He's going to be in the outfield, in that very young team. But Tampa making
interesting
a
pick.
little splash.
That's a very interesting pick. I want to get your thoughts on this one, Adam.
Having you said who was a pick? Joey Gallo.
Joey Gallo to the Rays.
He's a very razy player, and him being
Yeah.
a 3 true outcome guy, with the walks, the homers, and the strikeouts. But yeah, I think with Joey Gallo having a really, really tough year with the Yankees early on before being dealt to the Dodgers, and even then it was still kind of like not the greatest, but he was he's very capable. Sorry, he's very capable of breaking out and really coming on strong when he is hitting for power, anyways, when he is making some sort of contact. Picking him up in Tampa Bay for a very cheap price could be buy low, sell high, a buy low, probably sell high, or not really even sell high, but a buy low situation for Joey Gallo. Maybe I don't think Tampa Bay would be my personal pick where he would be going, but I definitely see him going to a contender.
Which one would that be?
I mean, I could probably see him going to any team that needs, probably in the American League where he's going to be playing. Well, he is a pretty decent outfielder, but
He was a Gold Glover.
I'm sorry.
He was a Gold Glover, so
yeah, he was a Gold Glover. But to be honest with you, I wouldn't be starting him. He'd probably be a 4th outfielder or a DH,
Yeah.
at least at this point,
That's
or platooning, getting 300-400 at bats a year, until he can prove that he can hit again. And I guess to be honest with you, Tampa is the kind of team that does that. Houston, LA, they all like to swap guys around. So I guess, now thinking about it a little bit more, Tampa Bay could be a decent pick. So actually not bad.
I was thinking another team would probably be the White Sox, but their outfield seems to be a little bit more established and complete with Robert, Eloy.
Left field doesn't look too good, right? They have Vaughn, and then they're using Gavin Sheets, I believe, in the outfield too. So it's meh, and he would be going into what looks like they're gonna maybe try to retool or rebuild, because it does look like Jose Abreu isn't coming back. That is what's been said, that he will be moving on from the White Sox. At least the report that I saw and that Lewis has told us. So I'm gonna go with my next pick, and it will be Jose Abreu. And I just think Jose Abreu is going to be a San Diego Padre for the next 3 years of his career. They need a first baseman, and Jose Abreu is going to be able to mash some homers. You join Juan Soto, you may lose out on Josh Bell, so this would be your replacement pick right here. And man, this team's not scared to make moves to win now. They were 1 game away from the World Series, and adding Jose Abreu, I believe, will 100% put you above the Phillies. I mean, I can't believe we're saying the Phillies, but yeah, it'll put you above the Phillies and definitely more in contention. You pair him up with Manny Machado, and I believe Tatis isn't back next year, right? So he'd be back 2024. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's. Oh no, he'll be back. No, he'll be back this year. Tatis.
Midway through the year? What was it? Like
yeah, I think he's missing 50 games, so or something like that. He'll be back at some point early on next year. No, yeah, no.
So you'll pair him up with Tatis, Manny Machado, Juan Soto, and that pitching rotation. This team could look really good with Jose Abreu as a San Diego Padre. And as I mentioned, AJ Preller is very, very aggressive when making trades and when making moves. So I could definitely see him going after a player like Jose Abreu. I want to get your guys' thoughts on that possibility.
Yeah, no. You can't go wrong with replacing your first baseman or filling that gap with Josh Bell with your 2020 AL MVP, right? I mean, it was 60 games, but he's a very, very talented hitter. He's been very consistent with the White Sox holding down that first base position, and Eric Hosmer has been he's been a big struggle holding being able to really show that he's a consistent hitter. It's been a disappointment the past few years over in San Diego, watching him play, having a really successful career over in Kansas City and winning the World Series with the Royals, but hasn't really been a great time with the Padres. So bringing in Jose Abreu, I think I agree with you, Kevin, is a really good fill and will help bring some extra offense to that lineup. And it's going to be obviously extremely super powered with having two MVP candidates with Tatis and Soto, and the guy who's going to hit you 30 home runs and play good first base with Jose Abreu. So I mean, the Padres are going to be another team to watch out for.
Yeah, and I do have one more pick, and I'm going to go with the first reliever being taken off the board. It'll be Kenley Jansen returning back to LA on a 1-year deal. I think he just will. This is like a safe pick. He didn't go well for him in Atlanta. He had his moments, but Raisel Iglesias entered in the second half of the season, just went phenomenally well for Raisel. I could definitely see him, kind of say it was a mistake leaving LA and coming back and filling in that closer's role, which they very much need after the struggles of Craig Kimbrell. So I know, Adam, I just saw you going out. You kind of mad about that one. So what are your thoughts on that one? Was that going to be your choice as well?
Yeah, no, I was gonna pick Kenley as my last pick before the Marlins one. I actually had him going back to the Braves. I mean, I think I
Okay.
have him. Yeah, I had him probably going back for a couple of years. He is getting older. He's not the same Kenley Jansen we used to see in the early 2000s with the Dodgers, but I do agree that Kenley Jansen is going to be going back at some point. How many did you say? 1 year? I had him for a couple of years, but
Okay.
yeah, definitely a short-term deal. Absolutely. That's a good pick, Kevin.
And now John's up, making a second to last pick.
All right, so for my next pick, I had it right here. My next pick, I got this is a guy who's like I guess approaching towards his last final years of his career, surprisingly, because I thought he was much younger than what he actually is. But I got South Florida native JD Martinez signing a 3-year deal with the New York Mets.
Okay. They just brought Daniel Vogelbach back, so we'll see how he fits there.
Right, but with with uh with JD, I mean, this is a guy who's a power hitter. Right, you did mention Vogelbach. I kind of want to see that bond JD's gonna have with guys like Marte Kana, all those other guys stacking up that lineup. And JD is kind of like falling off a bit, but I think in New York, it'll be interesting. Uh, I guess the Mets are like the Red Sox of the National League in terms of hating the Yankees. So if that's the case, I figured why not? Let's throw him on there.
I actually had him going to Houston on a 1-year deal. They're losing out. But Yuli Gurriel probably won't go back to Houston, is what we're hearing. That's why he was very emotional in that game 6. But New York is not a bad spot. I mean, if Daniel Vogelbach isn't working out for them, you could go with JD Martinez, and you'll have probably playing his the final years of his career there in New
Right.
York, and maybe signing like a 1-day contract or a 1-year contract, and
One
you
day.
wrap it up in Detroit. But Adam, your thoughts on that JD Martinez move? The Marlins would be seeing him a couple times a year, so that is, I guess, a little more impact move when it comes to what we cover. The team we cover, the Marlins.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. The Mets obviously continuing to power up that lineup and adding cushion behind their already very strong rotation and trying to make moves in the AL East to compete with the Braves, trying to for supremacy of the NL East, right? It's only going to make our jobs a lot harder as
Oh
Marlins
yeah.
reporters and fans, seeing these guys just shut down our lineup. But yeah, it'll be very cool to see it. Absolutely, JD Martinez, really just a DH at this point at his career is going to be really rough. And Mimi seeing him in left field might get some funny highlights, but other than that, I see him as a strict DH profile only. And like you said, Kevin and John, if it's not to the Mets, it'll be to a contender, and
Yeah.
why not mock him to a team that might get him for a pretty decent amount? And I could definitely see him going to the Mets, fitting the
All right,
profile.
Adam. You have to make your last 2 picks of the draft. It was good having you. I actually had a lot of fun doing this. Did not think this would be that fun. But Adam, final 2 picks, and then let's see who you have the Marlins signing.
Yeah, so I'll go with my last free agent pick here. And since you stole my reliever, Kevin, I'm going to go with, I guess, with my opinion is not really also a reliever. He would want to be signed as a starter, but I would love to see him as a a multi-inning weapon out of the bullpen. In my opinion, that's going to be Zach Eflin, the former Philly. He had a
Okay.
very, very strong ending to the season. We saw him be very, very valuable for the Phillies in that stretch run in October. He very much had a very strong role in that bullpen, with the Phillies going all the way and playing in November. So Zach Eflin is my pick, and for this point, I believe he's going to be going to the Toronto Blue Jays, who had arguably the worst bullpen in all of baseball this year. And I think they need inning flexibility from guys who can start and guys who are going to be pitching in the bullpen, guys who have that kind of experience. So having that kind of like hybrid multi-inning guy is going to be very, very important for them. And I think they're going to be valuing a guy like Zach Eflin a lot. And I think he's going to be going north of the border for 3 years. So hopefully he's got his visa ready and his passport ready, and good for Zach Eflin.
I actually love that selection.
That's a good pick.
That's maybe one of my favorite ones of this whole draft. But who do the Marlins get, Adam? Who do you have them signing? This has been what we're waiting for.
Yeah. So the last one I have here, the one pick I like the Marlins going for is Andrew Benintendi, right? He has, I think, that was his last year. I think now he's going to be a free agent for sure. I could see him going to the Marlins for maybe, I think he's 28 years old. I can see him going to Miami for 5 years.
5 years. What would the money look like? I mean,
for
it was a little
Benintendi,
down year with the Yankees, right? Kind of a down year after he got to the Yankees. Second half.
he started out kind of hot and then he kind of tapered off. I know he had a really good year with the Red Sox, and then he got caught up in the whole weird free agency thing, and they let him go during the COVID pandemic. But I could see him getting, anywhere from 12 and a half to maybe 17.5 million, somewhere in that $15 million range. Absolutely, for a guy like Andrew Benintendi. He's a good player. I like him a lot.
That's a very Marlins type deal right there as well. So, John, your final pick of the draft.
This is gonna be a completely random one. I'm gonna throw this name out there. I mentioned his name earlier on the fact that I believe it was Adam with his Kodai Senga prediction. I have Tyler Anderson signing a 3-year deal with the Minnesota Twins.
That's not even bad. That's a pretty good deal.
Tyler Anderson, a guy who a cheaper pick, I would say, for a team like the Twins, who are just trying to get better. I mean, that was a team that I thought was going to finish over 500, and for some reason they just fell off after the All-Star break, and they honestly surprised me that they weren't really doing as good as I thought they were going to be doing. The Guardians, if anything, were the team that completely shocked me and blew me out of proportion because, the Twins, they had Correa, they had decent starting pitching to use, but now with the addition of Tyler Anderson, now we're talking about a guy who I performed really well with the Dodgers in 2022, and getting him for 3 years, I think it could put the Twins back on that playoff bracket with the expanded postseasons and the magic that could do. I mean, look at the Phillies, but yeah, I got Tyler Anderson, 3 years, Twins.
All right, so I want to make my last pick a Marlins pick again because I just want to have fun with it. But I'm between a reliever. I want to see what they could get in an infield because they do still need a shortstop. We don't know if Miggy Rowe, in my opinion, as you know, Adam especially know this. I don't think Miggy Rowe is the long-term guy moving forward. But I'm gonna.
If he won the Gold Glove, he would have.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna go with a reliever here. Now I'm gonna go. Robert Suarez will sign with the Miami Marlins on a 3-year deal. So that is my final selection. Robert Suarez, a little bit on the older end for rookies. I mentioned him on the Miami Marlins Fish Stripes podcast when it comes to the offseason shopping as a possibility. And this was episode 2, so I would highly recommend you all to go check it out. It was with Eli and Lewis. I love this. I love this option. This guy's a flamethrower. One of the best rookie relievers, maybe the best rookie reliever out there. So I want to quickly get your thoughts, Adam, and then I'll get John's thoughts, or whoever wants to go first.
You can go ahead, John.
Oh, Well, this is the guy you mentioned to me actually, Kevin. I want to
Who's
say
there?
a couple of days ago. Um, a guy who I looked up because I wasn't really familiar with the dude. Um, but yeah, I saw that, he was a 31-year-old. You did mention the age, but after looking at it, he has some closer potential there. Uh he has some really good numbers over in Japan, 42 saves with Hanshin, and came over to the Padres doing really good. He pitched to a 245. His whip was set over at 1.049. This is a guy, has a high strikeout rate. So you did mention the flamethrower, and you're not wrong about that. Um, I like to pick. I think it does fit the whole Marlins type of thing we're kind of building down here. Uh, lots of strikeouts there, and mind you, only played 45 games, so this is a really nice pick. Um, but yeah, I think with 3 years, I don't know too much about 3 years. I'd probably give the guy about 1 to 2, see how he does in the one, and if he does good on the one, hey, bring in the extension, maybe the two. But I love it. Good pick. Very under the radar type name, and I think that's what the Marlins are going to be kind of aiming for this offseason if Bruce Sherman decides to open that wallet up.
Yeah, I mean,
Hopefully we're good.
you
Go
could
ahead.
definitely say, I guess, under the radar, but this guy was very well known, especially in the postseason. And I was very surprised he only made one save appearance, but then you go a little deeper into it. They have Josh Hader, so
Yeah.
you'll never go against Josh. You'll never go into a save situation over Josh Hader. But Adam, your quick thoughts on Robert Suarez to wrap it up?
Yeah, so well, Suarez for me is an interesting pick. I mentioned he had a very successful career in Japan. Did he opt out officially?
No, it was like a 1 year deal.
No, I think he has a player option for next year.
Oh, I believe then, yeah, he
He
would have.
probably opted out then. Yeah, no, he's a very good option out of the bullpen. He's going to be someone going to a contending team. I would be kind of shocked to see him going to the Marlins. Just like it'd be interesting to see him go into a team that's not going to be in the thick of contention, at least in my opinion. So I think I'd probably be familiar to see him on a team like the Dodgers or the Yankees or the Padres, someone like that. Um, but yeah, it's I really do like him as a pitcher, and he's definitely my kind of profile with the strikeouts, and he's a very effective option out of the bullpen with the ability to miss bats as well. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of having remorse on my pick for the Marlins. I don't know, Kevin, this is your show. Can you let me change it? I was like thinking about it. I was like, oh crap. It was like an obvious one.
Who do you want it to be?
I was looking at it earlier today. A guy who missed the season. He played right alongside Brandon Nimmo this year that nobody mentioned. Michael Conforto. Yeah, John's like, oh shit.
Yeah,
A guy who I
yeah.
think
Go
don't worry
ahead.
about, don't change it. I guess it's cheating, doesn't matter. But a guy, I guess since we kind of thought about it now,
No, dude,
since
no
he,
one thought about it. You're the first one to do it. So yeah,
No, that's
John.
a good one.
Yes.
I gotta change it. It's
okay, no,
so good.
so I guess since he missed like this year, I can totally see him wanting to sign like a 1 or 2 year deal, like a 1 year deal with like an option if he doesn't play super well to kind of have some security, and could definitely happen in Miami for sure. And then if they don't, if the Marlins aren't contending, it could be a Starling Marte kind of situation where they kind of just move him and
Trade him.
hope that they get someone,
Right.
you know, not a Jesus Luzardo, but maybe an infield bat that they need or that center field that we've been coveting for a while.
All right. Very last quick note on Robert Suarez. This is a tweet from Oz Ocampo, the new assistant GM. Word for word. Tried so hard to sign right-handed pitcher Robert Suarez way back in 2015, but no dice. Went to Japan, pitched phenomenally, and now a first-year big leaguer pitching in the postseason at age 31. What a great story. So that is coming from Oz Ocampo. This was before he went to the Marlins as now the assistant general manager. So maybe he'll push Kim to make that sign, but very, very quickly, one out of your boards, each of you, what is one player you guys actually see one of those deals happening? Which one do you think actually happens? So very, very quickly, John, you go first, then Adam, and I'll go to wrap it up then.
Well, I think for my list, it's pretty easy. It's gonna be Clayton Kershaw. I don't want to be that straightforward. I'm gonna say I could see the Trevor Bauer one happening. He's gonna come back at some point. And I think the Rangers are going to be the one team that's going to bid.
All right, Adam, you're up.
Yeah, for me, it's just gonna be my first pick, Aaron Judge. Like I mentioned, I don't see the Yankees and the Steinbrenner family letting him go for any amount. So I think they're paying up, they're opening up the checkbook and giving him a blank check.
And for me to wrap it up, I do believe it'll be Wilson Contreras heading over to the Houston Astros. They really need a catcher. He's the best one, and they'll spend. So we have less than a minute left on here. Thank you guys for joining us. We will put these on Twitter. It's for you guys to vote. And then as we go, we'll do the point system. We'll start so you guys know how it works. From John, from Adam, and from myself, we'll see you guys all in the next one. Peace out. Go fish. And thank you guys for watching.
All right. And